Well, this is quite a surprise, but a good one. It's my pleasure to introduce to you David Liz, and hello from Australia.
Hello from Miami, Shane. Thank you so much for having me here.
That's okay. Unforeseen circumstances. I was going to speak to you later on, but here we are right now. Miami, what's it like over there at the moment?
Oh man, Miami. Well, if you come to Miami right now, it's kind of a beautiful time of year. It's about between 80 and 85 degrees most of the day. But this is the thing. This is the time of year that tricks people. It fools people. You come and visit this time of year and you think it's like this all the time. But if you were to visit just 2 months later, you start getting into hurricane season and like raining every single day. And then come December, you want it to be chilly and it's still 80 degrees. You know, every once in a while we get a cold front, but it's just a little too hot for me, if I got to be honest. I love it, but it is hot.
Well, it looked pretty hot in the locations that you made your movie, The Welder. But before that, I don't know what 85 degrees is. We do
oh,
Celsius.
Yeah, Fahrenheit. Yeah.
We do Celsius here.
Yeah, yes, you're right. Well,
That's
we're going to have to do
it's probably about 30, 40.
Yeah. That's homework for the audience. They gotta look it up.
I like to know a little bit about people's backgrounds. So first, how did you become a director? Like your heritage, Latino, obviously.
Yeah.
And you grew up, did you love movies? Like how did you fall into directing and writing and so forth?
Oh, definitely, Shane. I think that's a great question. Since the time I was a little kid, I was obsessed with watching movies and watching TV shows. My mom would buy me all the movies that I wanted on VHS tapes, and cool. I'd wear the tape out, you know, the magnetic strip on the VHS tape. My mom would have to buy me a second copy sometimes of certain movies, and I'd memorize all the lines. And at first, I wanted to be an actor, and I performed in quite a few. I'm from Miami, of course, and so we're Spanish down here. I'm Colombian Cuban. So there's a lot of soap operas that are filmed over here with Telemundo and Univision, and I acted in a few of those. But I decided at some point that I liked telling stories. I liked to be the one behind the camera, speaking through the lens, and not in front of the lens. And, you know, I was also the typical young kid that liked to, you know, take his parents' camcorder and use it for my own things. I would do like short films with my friends, and I would I would do music videos for my buddies, and it was like as a young teenager. So I've had the passion. I'm very lucky in that regard. I know a lot of people spend sometimes, you know, decades trying to figure out what they really want to do. But I was lucky. I kind of knew since a very young age that I wanted to be involved in filmmaking and making movies, whether that be in front or behind the camera. I wasn't 100% sure about that aspect, but I knew I wanted to do something about this thing that we're doing now.
Well, so a soap opera actor to a horror director, that's that's a big journey. Who got you your first camera, or did you save up and buy it for yourself?
My very, very, very first camera was actually a web camera that my mom bought me. You remember those old compact computers, like from the late 90s or whatever?
I think so. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, they used to come with a web camera, and I used that to record like little movies that I would do like I said, with my friends. And they actually had a stop motion animation feature, and I would get clay figures, and I would make them dance like to the Backstreet Boys songs or the NSYNC songs, you know, like frame by frame, and then moving them. So that was really my first camera. And then like when I was like 13 or 14, my parents got me like a camcorder, and then I still have it, but I don't know if it works anymore. And also I don't want to see the terrible videos I used to. I mean, just the quality was just horrible.
But that's a gateway into what most filmmakers do. You know, they start with these small camcorders and film whatever they want to film, whether they're good or bad. That's the way of learning to getting to where you want to be.
Agreed. No, definitely. I definitely took that path unknowingly. I just was attracted to it, and I wanted to play around with the camera. It was just like symbiotic, really. It was natural. It wasn't forced at all. It was quite natural.
With The Welder, is there a cameo from you in the movie I might have missed?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Before The Welder and all the short films I've done before, because you know The Welder is my freshman film. It's my first feature film I've done. One of hopefully many to come, but this is my first one. And but before that, I would always try to make a cameo, whether that be just like a hand, like a close-up of a hand, and so I wanted to bring that into my feature. So the only thing that I did was there's a shot where you see a radio and a hand comes in and flips the dial. That was my hand. That's it.
No, that's
it's kind of hard to be in the movie when you're actually, because I directed, but I also did the cinematography. So I was behind the camera too. So I would have had to flip it on myself.
Well, look, was it hard to, I mean, I want to get into the basis of the story in a minute, but being a cinematographer and writing and directing, does that make it more challenging and you just want to be there and get it done? Or do people sort of react differently and go, right, well, we're going to listen to everything you've got to say?
You know, I'm not a tyrant on set, even though I was wearing a lot of hats. I'm very receptive to feedback. I like to hear. You know, I feel like this is a collaborative sport. You know, this isn't boxing or tennis or anything. This is like football, where you have a big team and you have to work together to make it happen. And so although I was wearing multiple hats and it was difficult, of course, juggling all of that, having to work with the actors, having to hold like the physical, when you're filming 18 hours a day, because like we filmed this in 9 days. So like
9 days.
You know, in the heat of Miami, 100% humidity, holding this like 50-pound camera the whole time, and then working with the actors, it's really takes a toll on you physically and mentally. But also, I guess going back to the question, I think that you can't just expect. You're not like you're not God on set, at least for me. Like I'm not the kind of director where I want everything exactly the way. I believe in hearing out the actors, hearing out the crew, seeing what they got to say, because I know I don't have all the answers. And on an indie set, that's important, I believe.
9 days too, carrying a camera around, directing cast, you in hot locations. Tell me about that. Was it did you plan everything out? Were there storyboards? Did it just flow? Did you come in on time, come in on budget? Tell me the details.
Oh, Shane, let me tell you, so many things happened even just before production, right? So I'll tell you just a few highlighted. 3 days before production, we got our car robbed. We got like the stuff inside of our car, like which we had a bunch of gear in there that we were going to use for the production. So we had to last minute purchase a bunch of gear, which obviously that means that we went a little bit over budget, because we had to replace the gear. We had to do it 2 days before the production. One of our main cast gets arrested by the police for a reason that was not like real. Like it was, you know, I won't say who, but it was out of nowhere. And the morning of, the van that had all the gear wouldn't start. We had to unload the van and put it into 3 different cars to drive it down to the location, which is about 45 minutes south of Miami.
Right.
And so just those kinds of things started to pile up, and we're like questioning, like, are we supposed to, what's going on? Like, are we supposed to make this movie? But then, because planning wise, we had it all planned out. You know, we had a shot list. We had we had a breakdown schedule.
Yep.
I don't really like to work with super detailed storyboards because I find them a little bit limiting, especially when you have such a short amount of time. You have to sort of be very flexible when it comes to your shot composition and shot selection. But beyond that, I mean, this script had like 20 revisions. We had a lot of planning going into this. We knew what we were going to shoot, when we were going to shoot it. But we had, in order to shoot a film in that short amount of time, you have to have a good amount of planning.
Oh yeah, and the movie gods were against you, obviously. But you did it.
I think that sometimes those are the best productions. I heard something like Sylvester Stallone said something like, whenever he's on a shoot that goes perfect, he's scared because that movie usually does bad.
Right.
But whenever he's on a shoot where everything went bad, he leaves the production with a smile on his face because he knows it's going to be good. Yeah. And I think that, well, I mean, short of somebody getting like struck by lightning, everything else bad that could happen to us.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre to me is pretty much a perfect movie, but they had everything go wrong on that set too. Like the making of the documentary, the making of is outstanding, and how they got that made is amazing, and nobody died.
Absolutely. And you know, they I saw that, and a lot of people were telling me like, "Oh, your story is so similar to Texas Chainsaw Massacre."
That's
like
why
they're
I'm bringing it up.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow. And then that's when I looked into it and I saw it and I was like, wow, it is crazy. And so you just can't, like, I took every obstacle as like a challenge from the universe saying, do you really want to make this movie? And I said, yes, I do.
I'm really glad you did. I've got to be honest, it surprised me how much I was engaged and really loved the film and the performances. Were there any gators? Any random gators? Was that something else you had to watch out for? Just again, I keep diverting, going on to the actors in the movie itself, but I'm intrigued. You must have got attacked by gators at some point. The locations were so natural.
Yeah. Well, you guys have crocodiles over in Australia.
Huge
we
crocodile.
have alligators, and we were filming right in very close to the Everglades, like a little bit to the east of the Everglades, right? You had to fake it a little bit, but a lot of the scenery shots with the drone and stuff, that was all shot in the Everglades. There was this one day we were doing a drone shot, and we have the drone like 1,000 feet in the air if you want to get a nice wide shot,
of course.
And I start hearing this like and I know that's the sound of an alligator nearby, and I'm like, oh, so I'm trying to get the drone to come down, and I can't see. I hear the alligator, but I don't know where it is, and so I'm just trying to get the thing down as quickly as possible. And after like what seemed like an eternity, I was able to land it, and I left before the alligator decided to manifest. But I didn't see it. I heard it. He warned me, and I took his warning and ran out of there.
Yeah, we got big crocodiles, boxing kangaroos, all those kind of things.
Yeah, great white sharks. I mean, you guys live in paradise over there.
yeah, that's it. And I'm a surfer, so I'm quite aware of the sharks as well. Have
you ever seen any sharks out there while you're surfing?
I have, but not recently. Usually you can tell because there's rustling in the water or there's birds, and you know where there's a big flock of birds, there's going to be sharks. Also, I've seen them come under me, but they usually just keep going because I surf on quite a lot of reefs. But, you know, you're with other surfers, people are looking out. So far, so good. I have all my limbs. So
thank God.
Thing.
Man. Yeah. Yes. You need those. You need those if you want to keep surfing. And do you live in Sydney?
I live on the Central Coast, which is about an hour north of Sydney. Most of my media commitments and things are in Sydney, but I'm just up north on the coast, and it's just far enough away from the city to be, you know, on a nice little quiet area. So I like it.
Lovely, man. Lovely. I got to go visit Australia one day. It's just a little bit of a far flight, but I hear it's just gorgeous and the food is delicious and the sceneries. Yeah, man.
Well, I'm someday. I'm about 18 hours ahead of you at the moment. So yeah, the flight is a long time.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost 7 o'clock in the afternoon, and you were telling me it's like 11 in the morning almost for you. Right?
Yeah, almost 11 a.m. So yeah, that's big difference.
Quite a jump, yeah.
You'll have to come down under though, because there's a lot of filmmaking, a lot of really good sets, locations, crew. So yeah, maybe
I've heard. Yeah, I've heard, and there's a lot of good productions coming out of Australia right now.
That's correct. Not just Sydney either. Up in Queensland, over in Perth, they film everywhere. Melbourne, which is really good. Now,
I heard they shot that movie Elvis out there.
Yeah, that was filmed all in Australia, up in Queensland. That was the movie that Tom Hanks got COVID on. So yes, that made news at the time, and yeah, Australian crew, a lot of Australian cast. But yes, Elvis.
And it's crazy how you guys can change your accent from the Australian to like just going to the Elvis. Those actors, I think the dad, the guy that plays Elvis's dad, and the girl that plays Priscilla, and I think even the mom, I think they're all Australian, and they have like these Southern American accents, and you couldn't even tell. I had somebody told me that movie was shot in. I mean, I know Berman is from over there.
Baz Luhrmann.
Baz Luhrmann. Oh, I got his name mixed up. My bad. I hope he's not watching this.
I've interviewed him a few times, and he's a lovely bloke. He wouldn't mind you saying.
Okay, good.
But yeah, quickly on Olivia de Jong, who played Priscilla, she's done mostly American films. So a lot of people don't even realize she is Australian, because just about 85–90% of her career so far has been US films. She went over there very young. The Aussies can perfect a very good American accent. It's sometimes the other way around. If an American tries to do or a Canadian do a Australian accent, that doesn't always work.
It doesn't translate well. Yeah. It's weird. Like the British and the Australian people can really do American accents well, but the Americans not so well the other way around.
No, that's not always the case, but yeah, quite a lot, unfortunately.
I'm hoping that Austin Butler wins the Oscar for Elvis, because I thought his performance was phenomenal.
He has been my pick from pretty much day one. And when he won the Golden Globe, I thought he's on his way, but it's very tough. Brendan Fraser was brilliant too.
He did phenomenal. I literally just saw The Whale yesterday for the first time.
Yeah.
And I was blown away.
Yeah.
And his performance was just out of this world. And so then now I'm like, because when I saw Elvis last year, I told my wife, I told her, this guy might win the Oscar. That was correct. But then I saw, Brandon Fraser, and I'm like, I don't know who to pick now.
Well, Colin Farrell's really good in The Banshees of Inisherin.
I haven't seen that one yet. I'm going to watch that tonight.
Yeah, he's a good actor, but it's a career-defining performance. And without giving it away, he has a scene where he cries in it. And it'll just break you down. It's so good. So enjoy if you can. But
it's on the list. I can't wait. I can't wait to watch it. Yeah.
But back to The Welder, just for a few minutes.
Sure. We got off track.
That's cool.
You're such a great conversationalist, man. I got off track. I didn't even notice.
Well, you're a very interesting man as well, and I love talking to you. So it's good.
Very simpatico here.
With The Welder, you're casting, I mean, especially Ro and Camila. Tell me how you found them. Have you worked with them before? Or did you audition them? Because they were pretty solid leads, I gotta say.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And with Ro, I worked with him on several short films prior to The Welder.
Okay.
And I just thought, he's so natural. He's so cool to work with. I like to work with people that are humble, that are cool, not like these huge egos, because, on indie productions, there's no time for an ego. We just got to go. If we got to get dirty, we got to get dirty. And if we're going to get sweaty, we're going to get sweaty, and we're going to film it, and we're going to do it. And so Ro, I knew him. As a matter of fact, the character's name is Ro, and his name is Ro. I wrote the script with him in mind, with his name and everything. But Camila was a different story. We were looking for Camila, for a long time, right? And then one day, it's the Miami International Film Festival, and me and a couple other buddies of mine, filmmaking buddies, we go to watch a film called Hurricane.
Yep.
And there she is. She doesn't have a huge role in this movie, but there's no such thing as a small actor. Small role, just small actors are like, she lit up this role, and I was like, wow, who is that girl? She is the person that I like to audition for The Welder. And so after the film, we start, chatting, and we start like finding out who made the film, and we got her name, and we sort of stalked her on Instagram and found her, and we sent her an invitation to audition.
Yep.
And we sent invitations out to other people, but she was our primo pick. That's who we wanted. We just didn't know her availability. We didn't know if she would like the character. We didn't know anything. But once she comes in, she came prepared. She had a binder with notes. She had cutouts of like army stuff, because she's in the army in the movie.
That's right, yeah.
she came so prepared, and I'm like, wow.
She's thought about it before she even got there.
She wanted to do it, and I could tell, and I wanted her to do it. So that's the way kind of like it played out. And I wish that we would have found her sooner, because it would have saved me a lot of grief and stress. But hey, it worked out.
Well, yeah, I was wondering what you said to her, especially the opening scenes, because she's running, she's sleepwalking, which is part of the plot. She's screaming, there's saliva coming out of her mouth. That's the editing. Cool. The editing is very, very well done too. But did you have to say anything to her? Because it looked like she was really breaking down. That acting was terrific.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that was actually the first scene that we shot in the movie. As a matter of fact, so that scene is intercut. It's basically two scenes, right? Where she's running through the forest, like as she's exercising, doing her army stuff. And then simultaneously cut with her waking up out of bed and sleepwalking. So the sleepwalking was shot on the last day. And the running through the forest and stuff, that was shot on the first day. And so it's hard for an actor who is literally just beginning to play the role of this character for the very first scene to be such an emotional one. But we needed it to do it for scheduling reasons and
powerful.
Yeah. So I basically was just telling her, remember, this is going to be part of the climax of the scene. And you are without like giving out any spoilers, you are facing an extremely traumatic event. And we spoke about it for a long time. And then she goes away. She went away. She puts on her earphones and she listens to whatever music she listens to. It's, you know, she doesn't tell me. You might have to ask her what she's listening.
I'll be asking, yes.
And then she really just zones in and gets into the moment. And then she comes back and we're ready. She's like, let's go. And I'm like, let's go. And that's kind of like how we did it.
That's so good. I mean, some of the best performances I've ever seen, and I've watched in my career a lot of movies, being a film journalist and movie analyst. But some of the best performances you've ever seen are little ones like that in micro budget films. And yeah, head and shoulders, I thought Camila was. Well done. I hope you work with her again. I'm sure that.
Oh, me too. I hope she wants to work with me again. Nah, of course we will. We will. We already have her in mind for the next project that we want to do and everything.
Well, we can mention spoilers if you like, because I would hope people have seen the film by the time they get to watch.
Fair enough. True. Yeah, the film is out. People can watch it. Yeah,
and by the time you are listening or watching this, I hope that everyone's seen it, because I'm highly recommending it. But I was shocked, and I said this to you off air, how it ended. Elisa, I'm saying her name right, not Eliza. Elisa.
It's Elisa.
I love that. I love that. That's why I wanted to make a point of saying that. She puts the welder's hat or mask on right at the end. Didn't see that coming. Was this, I know you said there was a lot of rewrites. Was it always going to end this way, or how?
Okay, so the ending was very important, and it's a very controversial ending. Some people were really against this. Some people wanted it to be more of a happy ending or whatever. I'm a fan of leaving a lot of loose ends open, a lot of questions. I want people to ask questions. And I think, like, from my perspective, this was the only logical ending that made sense to me as the co-writer and director. Why? This is a woman that's gone through an immense amount of stress. And she was on the borderline between sanity and insanity. And this new traumatic event of having her, well, I guess we're talking spoilers here, so who cares, right? Of having her vacation which is supposed to be a relaxing event, turn so drastically and become basically the most harrowing, most stressful moment of her life. Her
incarcerated.
She's about to, she's fearing for her life. She's not able to communicate with the world. Her boyfriend is kidnapped and his leg is chopped off. I mean, for goodness gracious, she is now pushed over. And the only way that she can fathom in her mind to help her boyfriend, whom she loves, is to don the welder's mask. Whether that is right or wrong, she doesn't care, because it's not about that. It's about her love and helping him helping him to survive. So I think that, yeah, it's a very controversial, because I mean, it can be interpreted in so many different ways. Like, oh, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that racism is not bad, or like, no, or is it like, what do you, I mean, like, some people have said the most off the wall comments. At the end of the day, what she's trying to do is save the love of her life.
That's it. That's what it boils down to.
By any means necessary.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that, because that's sort of basically how I saw it, but I still didn't expect it. So I was quite surprised. And
that's good.
Elisa was like a action star in a horror movie as well, because, you know, she had the gun. She was basically rounding up troops, and her decisions were getting made at the same time. What's going to happen next, and all the diversions of those creepy people around her. So yeah, I mean, for 9 days, I think you've got like a little mini masterpiece here. I hope a lot of people take notice of it for you.
Wow, Shane, wow, that is literally like, you're blowing up my head here, man. You know, us filmmakers, we are literally the most insecure people, at least I'm speaking for myself. So to get validation like that from you, Shane, it fills my heart. I really do appreciate it. You know, we put the best that we could into this film. It was low budget, short amount of time. And in Spanish, we say we want something to be bueno, bonito y barato. We want it to be good. We want it to be done at a low cost, and we want it to be done quickly. And that's what we kind of tried to do here. And because we you know, it was just a necessity. We had to adapt, and we wanted the film to be made by any means necessary, just like Camila or Elisa wanted her love to survive by any means necessary. A lot of parallels with the story and the behind the scenes when we analyze it, really. Yeah,
well, congratulations. I hope a lot of people get to watch it.
Thank you, Shane.
Who in, like, any Latino, Spanish filmmakers, actors that you've always looked up to, maybe someone you'd like to work with someday? There's probably a long list.
Oh man, so many. Right now, I really like Pedro Pascal. You know, he's good. I mean, he seems like so cool too, right? Like he's in the Last of Us TV show right now, and I think he's just so phenomenal in so many ways. And
the Mandalorian just started again.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, well, he's just so up there. Like if I even get to meet him one day, it would be just an honor. but yeah, man, I want to work with I like to work with diversity, but talent. I want people that are passionate about filmmaking. And of course I want to put in Latino representation into my films, because I'm Latino and that's who I know. Those are the stories that I know. But I love all people. I love Black people. I love white people. I want everyone to work with me. I want to work with everybody. Everybody come to me. Let's work. Let's do something.
That's good. As you were like starting out doing your short films, trying to have meetings, I guess, with producers and things, were you ever finding it difficult because of your heritage, or did you have no problems whatsoever?
Well, I've been doing most of this in Miami.
Yeah,
where not everybody, but a lot of people are Spanish down here. Yes. So I've never, in the filmmaking world, at least not to my face, I've never been discriminated against. I was discriminated against one time for a project that I worked on. I worked on a kind of like a documentary that was about transgender people and like their stories, how they came up and stuff like that. And one time I was discriminated on another project for having worked on that one.
Oh.
But to me, I'm the kind of person that I like to work on all kinds of projects. And it's, to be discriminated against because you did, a certain project, I think is kind of silly and ridiculous. And but for being Latino, not yet, at least.
Good. Thank goodness for that. I mean, there's so many for me too, but Pedro Almodovar, I always probably butcher his name, but his combination with Antonio and Penelope Cruz,
Yeah.
Antonio
Oh
Banderas,
yeah.
just, through 30 odd years, 3 decades
Yeah.
or more, has been outstanding. So
Oh, I love Antonio Banderas too. He's so good. And now that for some reason, he's like wine. He's just been getting better as he's gotten older. And like now he has like this gritty look. I really want to see him in something gritty. Like, he's always been like the super macho, good looking guy. Let's make him like this gritty. I love him. I think he's fantastic.
Very much so. Yeah. So last couple of questions before we wrap up. Can you surf?
I can't surf. I can't skateboard, but I can rollerblade. Miami's not the best for surfing. We have very little waves.
What about cooking? Can you cook?
Oh man, I can cook a mean burger. If you want a good burger, you come to me. Now I can't cook anything too fancy. I can't, I'm not a chef or anything. I can survive in the kitchen, but the burger, it's kind of easy. Anybody would say, oh, anybody can cook a burger, but that's kind of like my forte. That's my go-to, and my wife tells me they're good. I'm gonna believe her.
And what secret passions do you have other than acting and directing outside of filmmaking? Are there anything that you do? That's hobbies and things.
I love going to the gym.
Oh,
yeah. Check me out. Look. Oh,
very good. Bigger than mine. Trust me.
Yeah. I just been working out since I was like 12 years old, and it's nice to keep in shape, especially when you have to carry heavy equipment.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like keeping in shape is very, very pivotal to my shot composition, being able to hold the shot for a long period of time. If my fitness wasn't up to par, I don't think I'd be able to do what I do at the level that I do it. So even though it's a hobby separate from filmmaking, it helps me in my filmmaking.
Well, it's quite noticeable, the shots during the dinner scene as well, the movement of the camera and everything, that really awkward dinner scene that Camila had.
Such a strange scene, right? I love it though.
Oh yeah, like this whole movie it surprised me. Like I said, I was really stoked. It was great. But I don't want to overflow you with too many compliments. You'll explode.
My head.
Do you have a director's chair with your name on it?
I do. It's in the other room. I got it. It was a gift. It was a gift from one of my buddies for my birthday a few years ago, and now it's a decorative piece unless I go out on a production. But I gotta give a lot of thanks to my buddy King Shun for getting that for me.
That's very cool. Will we see a Welder Volume 2?
Ooh, that's a good question. This is my answer to that. We have the sequel completely outlined. We know exactly what will happen. And we think it's even better than the first one. It's one of those rare cases where the sequel might even be better than the first. However, there needs to be a need for it. We need to get the film out there, and if supply and demand, if there's a demand, we will supply it. In the meantime, we're working on another film unrelated to The Welder, but we are ready to pull the trigger on the sequel if there's a demand.
Well, there could be like this welder universe, like different welders in different states, and then they get together for one big.
Hey, we got to talk about this behind the scenes. I like this idea. I like this, Shane. All right, I'm going to give you writing credits.
Oh, I'd like that. Final question for people who are deciding what movie to watch and they're flicking through thumbnails on streaming services. Why should people pick The Welder, in your opinion?
People should pick The Welder because they're going to get a horror film that is very different from what they're used to. It's filled with twists and turns. It has a slow burn that builds and builds the anxiety. If you have anxiety disorder, maybe you shouldn't watch this film. Exactly. It's going to exacerbate it. And it has just like this twist ending that'll keep you thinking and it's one of those films that after you finish watching it, you want to have a conversation about it. Like, what did this mean? What did you think about that? Why do you think it took that turn? Did you expect that turn? And I think most people will say no. And I'm a sucker for a good twist. I sure am. I'm an M. Night Shyamalan fan.
Yeah.
So a good twist, I'm all for it.
Yeah, well, the music was effective. I think that helps the situation at times. And then you've got the action, smallish. They're very small, but there's some action sequences and
sure.
Yeah, well done.
James Hall did the music. He's from London.
Yeah.
He did such an amazing job. Not only did he do the music, listen to this guy. He did the music. He did the sound effects. He cleaned up the dialogue.
Wow.
He cleaned up the ADR. I mean, this guy is a magician of sound. And I think the sound is one of the strongest attributes of the film.
Definitely. The sound combines in that opening scene I was telling you about, with the acting and the rain, and then the running and the footsteps and everything else. So yeah, no, the music, and didn't realize he also did the sound and everything.
He is so talented. James Hall, shout out to James Hall. All the filmmakers out there that need a good composer and sound mixer and engineer, look him up. He's on Instagram.
David, Liz, it's been a pleasure, mate. And I know we were, for the listeners and the watchers out there, this was supposed to be an interview with Camila, but she's very busy for a very important reason, right?
Yes. She's very busy right now, but she's going to be on the show next time.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate you hosting me unexpectedly. I know this was a surprise, but thank you so much for being so gracious, for being such a fan of the film. I appreciate that. My heart is filled after this convo, and I really do appreciate it.
Before I stop recording, I will say that entire interview was unscripted. I was just asking questions off the top of my head because I didn't know I was going to talk to you.
Yeah. Well, you would have been a freestyle rapper in another life, because that was so smooth. That was like butter.
Well, I don't know if I'd be any good. I've seen 8 Mile. I thought Eminem was good at that. But no.
Here, I'll do a beat.
Give me my own talk show any day. I'd love that.
Awesome.